Welcome, everyone, to the 2013 Golden Nibiru Awards, the annual award for the greatest falsehood spoken with the professed intent of uncovering the truth. I'd like to thank everyone who voted. Without you, this competition could not be what it is, that is to say democratic and not decided entirely by me. So now let's look at the results. In order from least votes to most, here are the nominees for the 2013 Golden Nibiru.
They have major university studies that if you take more than 3 flu shots, your increase for Alzheimer's goes way up.
Now this room can't be solid because it's made up of atoms, and atoms have no solidity. This is the great bewildering conundrum that scientists have.
And in the Greek language, Christos is where Pillsbury gets a cooking oil called Crisco. Banks are on both sides of a river. They're called river banks. And I grew up from about the age of 7 or 8 having otherworld experiences. Jesuit Catholic establishment under international maritime admiralty law. You think it's by chance that these words and terms are used? You better go back and do your homework. People who run this country use terms and words and symbols and emblems. And the people have no idea in the world what's going on.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Jordan Maxwell has won the first ever Golden Nibiru Award. So now that we've gotten our winner, let's take a closer look at him. I'll admit that I hadn't seen much directly of Maxwell at the time of his nomination. Most of my information about him came from other sources, well, actually really just Laborum 312 debunking him, but since I counted the votes and saw that he'd won, I've seen a little bit more of him, and I think I understand him a tad better. See, Jordan Maxwell isn't an arguer, not primarily at least. No. First and foremost, Jordan Maxwell is a performer. Now, that may seem like a remarkable claim, but let me show you what I mean. Take this clip.
The whole idea of the Saturnian is called Saturn. The god Saturn was Lord of the Rings. So women were told to listen to their god, so they would wear an earring, because Saturn is the Lord of the Ring. And men were to get married before their god, so they wear a wedding ring.
Now, if you examine this clip with your rational faculties turned on, it's ridiculous. No one knew about the rings of Saturn at the time he was talking about, so the planet couldn't have had that title, at least for the reason he probably has in mind. But let's look at this clip again the way Maxwell's audience is looking at it. Think about it. You're a plucky young truther who feels like he's not in control of the world around him, and is naturally inclined to blame entities and forces other than himself for this. You're looking for order, for patterns, for what one researcher, at least according to some guy Miles Powers had on, I don't know, I couldn't actually get to the paper myself, called a convenient alternative to a chaotic world, or something like that. I couldn't find the quote in the video again. Don't judge me! Anyways, look at the clip again in that context.
The whole idea of the Saturnian is called Saturn. The god Saturn was Lord of the Rings. So women were told to listen to their god, so they would wear an earring, because Saturn is the Lord of the Ring. And men were to get married before their god, so they wear a wedding ring.
You can see it, can't you? You can see how someone would buy the connection. Now, if someone is looking for rational answers to reality, they'll never take Jordan Maxwell seriously. But if they're looking for order, for an explanation that makes the world feel simpler, tamer, and easier to cope with, they would. Truth be told, as dark as some conspiracy theories often are, they do their job of casting the world in terms of a battle between a single, very easily understood good force, truth movements, and Pleiadians, and a single, very easily understood evil force, the New World Order and reptilians. Even though the New World Order is more threatening than any of the real causes of big problems like 9/11, AIDS, etc. that it often attempts to explain, it's ultimately easier to cope with because it's simpler, tamer, and easier to understand. Don't get me wrong, I'm not accusing conspiracy theorists of being stupid or acting in a way that is totally unacceptable and unforgivable. I'm just saying that they, like many people, find the chaotic and uncontrolled nature of the world threatening. That's not really too great of a fault. It's just them responding to natural human inclinations. There's a common wisdom in fiction writing circles that the scariest thing is the unknown. If you explain a threat, a monster, a villain, or whatever, people will see what it is and be able to psychologically deal with it. But if you leave it unexplained and only hint at its negative nature, then the fear people will feel of what it might be will be greater than the fright provided by any actual answer you could possibly give. With a belief system like the pan-conspiracy of Maxwell and others, you want to cater to people's desire not to feel afraid of the world. And conspiracy theories as a whole give the enemy a simple explanation which anyone, even people who don't really know much about history and politics, can understand. A chaotic and complex world is scarier because it is harder to understand. I'm kind of hammering in that point, but it's important. It's not that these people are stupid, and they're not. It's that when forced to choose between a scary, chaotic world where there's 30 factors affecting any big, traumatizing thing that happens, and sometimes we don't know what half of them are, and a simpler, ultimately less threatening world with the evil shadow government and the reptilians and the virtuous truthers and Pleiadians, people, especially people who don't know enough about the relevant evidence and science and history to understand that one is clearly favored by the evidence over the other, quite understandably choose the less threatening one. So where does all of this tie back to Jordan Maxwell specifically, and not just his belief system? Well, his style of argumentation, his superficially convincing but ultimately bogus etymologies, his ambition to tie his theories into literally everything, religion, politics, all sorts of things, is perfect for someone who's looking for order in a chaotic world which frightens them. His ideas show his audience that there are seemingly easily accessible explanations for the problems with the world, along with simple, if very, very difficult, answers. Now, before you all jump on me, I'll admit that a lot of this is my own speculation, and you should probably take it with a grain of salt. Also, I of course acknowledge that not every conspiracy theorist is going to be like this. Many people have been raised with these beliefs, and others probably have found some of the alleged evidence convincing. On the other hand, there is data to back up the idea that people who tend to feel like they're not in control of the world and their own problems also tend to believe in conspiracy theories. So I think there is some basis for what I'm saying here. So with all that said, what are we to make of Jordan Maxwell? Well, he is, to paraphrase the great Laborum 312 I mentioned earlier, a performance artist, and he caters to the needs of a certain type of person. And for all the intellectual flaws of his arguments, we must respect that he is able to cater to them especially well. Thanks for watching, and until next time, may the golden wings fly forever, not for what they are, but for what they represent.